Hello and welcome back. This time we want to tackle intro. They're called intro slides in Android or in iOS. So basically, these widgets are what you see these days when you open a new app and you have these slides that basically showcase the features of that particular app or how to use the app basically. All right. So UI slides are basically something like this. Alright, so now that we know what these are, let's go ahead and try to make these in Kivy. Alright, so I am going to call this one UI slider like that. Alright, and right off the bat, I know we need a screen manager for this. Okay, so that's how I'm going to be doing this. Obviously, there might be better ways of doing this, but I like to do things from scratch. That way, I know I can customize it as much as I want. For example, you could probably just try to use, I believe, what do they call them? I can't think of it, but when I remember, I'll tell you. And after that, let's see. Yep, I think maybe a card transition. All right, so now on our UI slider here, the first thing I'm going to create is a screen manager because we are going to use it to basically swipe from the left and from the right to show content. All right, so self dot, and I'll actually call this one screen manager, and it's going to be a screen manager, and the transition for this screen manager is going to be that card transition. All right, and this is actually a class. So that is done. Now self.add widget, and we want to make sure we add that screen manager. All right, just like that. So on our UI slider here, we're going to need two functions. One function to actually facilitate adding widgets to our screen manager instead of just adding them to the slider. And the other one to actually slide content when we swipe from the left or from the right. So I'm going to start with the add, and I'm just going to call this one add slide. And add slide is going to take obviously a slide to add, and this is going to be a UI slide class. We're going to create this in a second. And for this one, it's pretty simple. All we have to do is self dot underscore underscore screen manager dot add widget, and we want to add that slide right there. Now the next one is the function we're going to use to actually slide our widget. All right, so it's going to be slide, and it's going to take self, and well, let's give it direction as well. All right, so direction is where are we sliding, right or left? Okay, so with that done, now the next thing we want to do is I'm actually going to make an instance of this. I'm going to keep our manager here because it's pretty long. So screen manager right there. And without doing anything, as long as we're sliding, I'm going to say manager, the transition, right? The direction, and the direction is going to be equal to the direction we're sliding, all right? So that this looks great when we slide our things, all right? Now, the next thing we want to do now is either slide the current screen, move it off screen to view the screen either on the left, which is the previous screen, or on the right, which is going to be the next screen relative to the current screen. So what we need to do now is get the current screen. So I'm going to say current, and this is actually easy. It's manage it with current screen right there, and that holds the current screen. All right, so now I can say if direction is in fact equal to right, which means we are swiping to the right, right? So in that case, if we are swiping to the right, we want to show the previous screen relative to this current screen, okay? In other words, if this is our window, if I swipe that way, I want to show the screen on this side instead of this side. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to store the current screen's index, and I'm going to store this in IDX, and I'm going to say screens, right? So screens holds all the current screens you have attached to your screen manager, right? And then on those screens, we have this function called index, and we can then get the index of the current screen, all right? So this returns the index of that screen. Pretty simple, right? Now down here, we can say if that index is in fact equal to 0, which means this is the first screen on our slides. In other words, there's nothing we need to do. We cannot slide if we don't have any previous screens, all right? So we can simply pass here. Otherwise, which means it's not the first screen, then simply manager.current, and manager.current is going to be now equal to manager.previous. This function always holds a value, so previous is always going to be the screen previous to the current screen you have on your screen right now. All right. Otherwise, which means the direction is not right, so obviously it's actually left. We want to get the last screen on our manager here. All right. So this is going to be manager.screens, like this. So like I said, screens holds all the screens you have attached to your manager, right? So since this is a list, we can simply get the last one by simply saying -1. All right. Now with that said, we can say if current, right, which is the current screen right there, is in fact equal to last, which means the current screen is the last screen. We don't want to do anything here. Otherwise, manager.current, we want to set it to manager.next, all right, which holds the next screen relative to your current screen. Okay, pretty simple stuff. And with that done, I believe we are done with the slide function. So now we need a way to use this slide function. All right, so how we do this is we're going to use these events on touch down, on touch move, and on touch up. All right, so for this one, we're going to use on touch down, which is going to take self and a touch. All right, so with that said, I am going to now check if the touch occurred inside our app here. All right, inside our widget, sorry. So if self dot collide point, and this takes a touch dot x coordinate and the y coordinate of the touch, like that. And we're going to use this again. So what I'm going to do is I am simply going to duplicate this 2 times. All right, make this on touch move, and then this one on touch up. All right, so now with that done, if the collide point actually occurred, if the touch occurred inside, then we actually need, let's make a variable up here, right? We're going to make it up there, and this one is going to be, and let's just call it touch start, and you understand why we have that in just a few seconds. All right, and let's initialize it. Actually, let's just make it none. All right, now let's go down here to our on touch down right there. All right, and what we want to do with that, we want to say self dot underscore touch, touch start is equal to where the touch is relative to the x-axis. All right, and then we want to simply own that touch, so touch dot grab, and we want to register it to our widget right here. And then finally, we can simply just return true here to say that we accept this touch. Otherwise, if it didn't occur on our widget, then obviously we want to return false. All right, So now we can go to our on touch move event, which occurs when every time you are moving your finger or your mouse. All right. So we are going to check if that move is actually in our touch, in our widget. And actually here, let's also check if we indeed registered that touch. All right. So touch dot, I believe it's grab underscore current. Hopefully that doesn't give us errors. And if grab dot underscore current is equal to self, right? What we're going to do here is now we know we own this touch. So let me go ahead and create yet another variable, and I'm going to call this one underscore underscore moved, and it's going to be equal to none by default. So if you watched my reveal tutorial, you already know what this is. But if you haven't, every time you move your mouse like this event is going to be fired. Which means if we click here, the on touchdown event is going to be fired. And if we move here, this on touch move event is not going to be fired once, but probably like 100 times. All right. So you don't want that. Okay. So what we're going to do is say self if self dot moved, right? Which means we've already registered that this touch is actually moving. We are simply going to return. Otherwise, if that is not the case, then we can simply say if touch dot x, all right? So wherever we are moving, if that is greater than self dot touch start right there, right? Then we want to slide now. So self dot slide. We can now slide because now we have a direction. So the direction is actually equal to right. So remember our self.touch start is equal to touch x right here. All right. So initially when we do an on touchdown, basically when I click here, we take that x coordinate, right, and store it inside this variable right here. And now when we move, we compare that coordinate with where we are moving right now. So for example, if this was 100 and we move this side, then obviously this is going to be greater than 100. So something like 120, 130. That way, we know that by default, we are now moving to the right. All right. Otherwise, if that is not the case, then obviously we are moving to the left. So we can simply say self dot underscore underscore slide actually, and we want to slide to the left. All right. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. So now that we have a way to slide, let me save this to get rid of that error. On our on touch up event now, we are going to do some basic house cleaning. So again, we want to assert that we actually own this touch. So touch dot grab current is equal to self. Then the touch indeed belongs to us. So what we're going to do here, if we own this touch, is simply release it because we are done with it. So touch dot ungrab, release it from our widget like that. All right. Then we can then set self dot moved equal to none again. All right. Just like this. Now you'll notice here that we haven't really set move to anything, so we can basically do it up here, because regardless of which direction we are moving, we know for a fact that we are actually moving. All right, so self.moved, and we can just set this to true. All right, just like that. And with that done, we can now return true here to say that we are done with this touch. Otherwise, we will simply return false because we don't own this touch at all. All right, so that would be it for this one. Now if you noticed, let me try to find it real quick. If you notice here, we said our slide is going to be a class of UI slide. All right, we need to create that class. So let's go up here real quick and create that class. What I'm actually going to do is I am actually going to copy, duplicate it up here, right, and make this one a UI slide instead of UI slider. All right, Now, a UI slide, this one, instead of inheriting from a box layout, it's actually going to inherit from a screen. All right, because the screen manager only accepts screens as input, as children, sorry. All right, so with that done, let's create a wrapper, because basically a screen manager will only show one widget. So if you add one widget, then it will be shown. But if you add two, then the other one, you won't be able to see it. All right. So we need a way to be able to add as many widgets as we want. So we're actually going to create a widget wrapper here. And this is going to be a simple box layout. And by default, I'm going to give this an orientation of vertical, just like that. All right. And obviously add this to our slide now. So self dot add widget, and we want to add self dot wrapper, just like that. All right. So with that done, we now need a way to be able to add widgets to our box layout instead of our screen, because the default add widget always adds to the screen. All right. So we're going to create a small function for that, and it's going to be add child, and this will take the child we need. All right. And this is going to be self dot wrapper dot add widget. What do you want to add? We want to add the child. All right. So Control S to save, and that would be that for this one. All right. So now let's try to test this out. And as you notice here, I have 3 images. Those are going to be some slides. All right. So I'm going to test using those. So I'm just going to say from kivy.uix.image import image. All right. Now let's create a class here which we are going to use to test our widget. So I'm going to say class, and I'll just call this one slider win box layout. All right. And let's define the inits. Oh, I actually hate doing this one. Self and keyword arguments dot init again, and our keyword arguments here. All right, so now let's create a UI slider instance. It's going to be a UI slider like that. All right, now let's add it. So self.add widget, and we want to add our UI slider. Now let's create some slides. All right, so I'm going to say slide 0 is equal to UI slide, and this is a screen, and the screen should always have a name. All right, you cannot skip this one. So what I typically like to do is call this screen and a number, duplicate this 3 times, and screen 1, screen 2, and of course 2, 1. All right, now we need to add our slides to our UI slider. All right, so UI slider dot add slide, and we want to add slide 0, Control Alt 2 times, then slide 1 and slide 2. Now that we have that, we need to add some content to our slides here. All right, this is actually supposed to be the small letter UI slide, like that, slider like that. All right, now let's add some content to our slide. All right, and that content is going to be our image. So I'm going to say IAM is equal to image, and the source for this image is actually going to be 0.png. All right, and 1, 2, make this one 1. Yep, 1, and let's just make this one 0. And now we need to add our content to our slides. Okay, so down here you can simply say slide 0 dot add child. What child do you want to add? Well, I am 2 times, and here I am going to add 0, 1, add this one to 2, 1, like that. Control S to save, and now we need to return our slider here. So slide win, just like that. Control S to save this. Now let's try to run this and see what we get down here. So Python, and this is going to be UI slider.py, right? And the size for this, I am going to make it about by 640. Run this. All right, so this is what we get here. All right, a full screen slide, and if I click and drag, I get another slide. Click and drag, another slide. If I click and drag again, it doesn't work because there are no more slides. We only have 3. If I slide again this time, I come here, slide this time, I come here, slide, and it doesn't work. All right, so that is a basic intro slide for you guys. If you need a polished, more sophisticated slide, I actually took the time to polish this and make it work better. For example, this becomes a background image, all right? And that way you can add other widgets, for example, a button here. So for example, here you can have a skip button where a user can skip to the last slide, all right? And it actually has indicators down here to show you which slide you're currently at. So if you're interested in something like that, then check it out on my website. The link is going to be in the description down below. And basically, all the other stuff about that slide is going to be in that website. All right, so definitely check it out. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Thanks for the support and subscriptions. If you haven't subscribed already, please just click the red button. It's pretty simple. Click the notification button to get notified. Otherwise, as always, I will see you in the next one.